Top of the morning, Dan, and in for Amy this morning is Chicago Tribune columnist John Cass. And John, nipple rings enthusiast and governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, he marshals on the Excelsior Pass, which we talked about in this show, and he had previewed. This has gotten lost in all of the allegations of sexual harassment and worse. And by the way, at least on this show, a reminder about the real scandal there, and that's, of course, the decision with respect to returning infected individuals to nursing homes and the lying about it, the covering it up. The Excelsior Pass, it's an app that will allow New Yorkers to prove their vaccination status or recent history of a negative COVID test in order to gain entry to events and businesses. Similar to a mobile airline boarding pass, individuals will be able to either print out their pass or store it on their smartphones using the Excelsior Pass wallet app. Venues such as Madison Square Garden and the Times Union Center in Albany will begin using the app next week, starting April 2nd. And Cuomo's office said he expects the Excelsior Pass will expand to smaller arts, entertainment, and event venues.
What does the Constitution of the United States tell us about this?
Well, this is going to be a very interesting discussion and interesting development, is that this is going to be the next snowball to deal with as it has already begun rolling downhill. Rutgers University requiring students to get vaccinated in order to return to campus. This Excelsior Pass in New York. LA Unified School District working with Microsoft on a daily tracking of students' COVID infection status and so forth. For more on all of this, let's talk to somebody steeped in the Constitution and American history. Pleased to be joined by George Will, columnist for The Washington Post, Pulitzer Prize winner for commentary in 1977, author of, most recently, The Conservative Sensibility. George, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Glad to be with you.
What about this next phase of COVID-related government action, the vaccine passports, as it were?
Well, it's problematic constitutionally, but it's also a powerful incentive for people to get vaccinated. And there's a powerful public good at stake here in containing an infectious disease. So because there are, for various historical and ideological reasons, clusters of resistance to vaccines, it seems to me there's nothing appalling about nudging people to protect themselves, and by doing so to protect the community. I mean, we have an enormous national interest, economic, even national security interest in reaching herd immunity. And if people are aware of the fact that being vaccinated will open their mobility, social mobility, so much the better.
The question in part would be, there's two questions. One is, are we going to achieve herd immunity by the end of April, as Johns Hopkins professor Marty Mockery suggests, irrespective of any of advances like this Excelsior Pass, number one. Number two, the Cuomo statement said, of course, an individual's data will be kept secure and confidential at all times. I think right. I think there's a reason for some skepticism about that, isn't there?
There certainly is. I mean, anytime the government says this can't happen, watch for it to happen next Tuesday. No, the COVID experience has raised all kinds of awkward questions about individual liberty in an age of interconnectedness that is underscored by an infectious disease. But there's no reason to start shedding our individualism.
I don't remember, Mr. Will, when I was a little boy and my mom took us on the bus to the down through the South Side to drink that horrid green sugary substance polio vaccine.
Yes.
But was there Did people say, no, I'm not going to get vaccinated? I don't want my children vaccinated?
That's an excellent question, to which I do not know the answer. I'm old enough to remember growing up in central Illinois when fear of polio and the horror of iron lungs, as they were then called, caused my parents say I couldn't go to the swimming pool, and I couldn't go to the movie theater in the summer. And then along came Jonas Salk with his magic bullet, that vaccine, and polio ceased to be a scourge and a terror of parents and children. That sort of gave the American people a false view of public health, that we were always looking for pharmacological silver bullets, whereas the biggest threat to public health in the United States was and remains, in some ways more than ever, are bad habits. I mean, actually, the COVID epidemic would not be as bad as it has been if there weren't so many obese Americans. Obesity seems to correlate with a kind of susceptibility. When you have 27% obesity rate here as compared to 7% in Italy and 2% in Japan, you realize that we're making a lot of bad choices.
Well, and the choice to lock down has exacerbated that underlying issue. A study out that suggests that the average person in lockdown gained something like 29 pounds. The millennial was the worst. The millennial category was the worst, 41 pounds. I mean, you go from obese to morbidly obese. And then, of course, you're more susceptible to things like COVID-19, which we know. And so on lockdown policies, which was just as novel as the coronavirus in terms of a response.
Life is trade-offs. It's an endless series of trade-offs. And to take just one example of COVID derangement syndrome, the idea that we are a generation of Americans being denied an entire year of schooling because of a pandemic, which the only good thing to be said about it is it largely exempts the young. So we made an absurd trade-off there in closing our schools, and we all know why. It's largely at the behest of teachers' unions.
Yeah, well, that's the one institution, I mean, perhaps the one institutional actor that has been exposed for what conservatives said they were, even in the minds of some that are center-left. I think it's very difficult, and you see it by the actions people are taking, even the sort of champagne socialists in New York and L.A. to defend and Chicago, for that matter, to defend what the teachers' unions have done.
The kids in Chicago, 104,000 high school students are still not in school. Speaking of trade-offs, though, I have to ask you, because of your fondness for a demonic North Side baseball team.
Demonic, that's strong.
Speaking of trade-offs, we have Eloy Jimenez, one of the great young players, getting hurt on the South Side, and now we have a kid with 55 games, mostly in the minor leagues, Andrew Vaughn, limited to A-ball and below, 55 games of pro experience, is now being penciled in as the left fielder. What disasters can you see in the seventh inning of baseball games for us?
I was watching the spring training game, addicted as I am to all forms of baseball. I was watching when he went up to get that ball and hung up his shoulder and cost the season. Right. I then promptly texted my old good friend Tony La Russa and said, "How bad is this?" And he said, "Pretty bad." I don't know about your seventh inning, but gosh, you just hate to see someone injured in spring training in a meaningless game.
Well, and on the north side, they got a problem that apparently Walter White is their director of minor league operations. Did you see? Did you see? So they got to keep guys focused on baseball and not their outside business pursuits over on the north side, George.
Yeah, look. Baseball is so demanding; it requires everyone's full attention, and everything else in life, to me, is basically less serious than baseball. So I wish people would concentrate on what they're good at. We have a problem in this country with mission creep. All kinds of institutions won't stick to what they're supposed to be doing. The Federal Reserve Board wants to cure the climate problem. The New York Times, with its 1619 project, wants to rewrite American history and school curricula from coast to coast. Why can't people stay in their lanes?
Yeah, it's a great question. And speaking of the baseball season as it unfurls, I guess you'd be supportive of this, just being a Federalist, that Texas is going to have 50,000 people. Chicago Cubs, Chicago White Sox are going to have 8,000 people at opening day. Now that's a sellout on the south side, but on the north side, not so much.
You guys are hostile.
And we're Sox
getting ready
fans.
for opening
and
day.
we're Sox fans. That's the thing.
We're Sox fans and conservatives in Chicago. You know how that makes you feel?
Ornery. Yeah.
Ornery.
When I was growing up in Champaign, Illinois, and was a Cub fan, my mother, who hitherto had not had a thought about baseball in her life, became a White Sox fan, so we'd have something to argue about while we washed and dried the dishes together. I had a team of the likes of Frankie Baumholtz and Wayne Terwilliger and Roy Smalley and Dee Fondy. She had Nellie Fox, Chico Carrasquel, then Louis Aparicio, Billy Pierce, Ferris Fain. She had real athletes.
Best decision she ever made. Yeah.
It was unfair. It was a disastrous decision I made.
Speaking of disastrous decisions, I have to ask you about this computer plate umpire business that's starting to creep in. Speaking of mission creep,
Technology in the game.
Technology in the game where in the next 5 seasons, I'm told, we could have computers calling balls and strikes, which would be...
Well, you're still going to be a guy behind home plate because you're going to have to... Someone has to be there to call catcher's interference and foul tips and other things. Furthermore, they have not yet come to terms with the following fact. The 17-inch wide plate can, if you have a computer calling balls and strikes, a pitch can come in and the seam can touch the outer corner at the front of the plate and be caught by the catcher a foot and a half off the plate and be called a strike by a computer. So it's going to be very difficult for them to. It seems to me.
Are you saying not even with Greg Maddux pitching?
It's the same strike calls that Tom Glavine got.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. But,
George,
I'm saying we're a little farther away than people think from getting rid of the men in blue behind the plate.
Well, that's good news. George Will, columnist for the Washington Post, Pulitzer Prize winner for commentary in 1977, author of The Conservative Sensibility. George, and as always, when you join us, say hi to my fellow Northwestern Wildcat alum, your son, Jeff. I hope he is
sure
well.
Will.
Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And he joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer.
With PatriotSoftware.com, accounting and payroll, keep your time and money.
Mike Capel here, serial entrepreneur with words from another happy payroll customer.
My husband and I started a business together, and I had no idea where to start when it came to payroll. And a friend of mine recommended Patriot, and I have not looked back since. It was extremely user-friendly. I was actually able to understand it and run everything extremely well. And anytime I've had a question, they have been so quick to answer and help me. I definitely recommend it to anyone who is looking for a payroll software that is easy to use, user-friendly, and really offers everything that you need when it comes to something that's beneficial for your business.
Visit us at PatriotSoftware.com. Use promo code RADIO and get 2 months of payroll free. That's
With
PatriotSoftware.com.
PatriotSoftware.com, accounting and payroll, keep your time and money.
Speaking of escaping the clutches of the teachers union, if you have kids in school, this past year has been a major wake-up call. All of a sudden, many of the things you once took for granted changed overnight. For many students, school is still happening mainly online, as John Cass just mentioned about high schoolers in Chicago and CPS. And for some school districts, that seems to be the way it will be for a while, but that's not the case with many private schools. Most private schools have been in classroom since last August, as you well know, and students have been receiving a high-quality education from teachers who shared your values. Do you want your child to suffer through another year of virtual learning? Now is the time to consider a private school, and the most affordable way to do that is through halfpriceschools.com. Right now, vouchers are available for 50% off the normal tuition for private schools across Chicagoland, including Lake County Baptist in Waukegan, Trinity Lutheran in Lombard, Faith Evangelical Lutheran in Antioch, Kingswood Academy in Darien, Christian Liberty in Arlington Heights, Chicago Hope Academy on the near west side of the city. Go to halfpriceschools.com, search for a school near you, and purchase a voucher today. Then prepare to send your child back to school this fall in classroom to school that you can trust. Visit halfpriceschools.com today.
With a Democratic sweep officially in place, we are now at the mercy of tax and spend economics. Get ready for runaway national debt pushing the further devaluation of the dollar. So if you haven't invested in gold, now is the time to protect your savings. Birch Gold Group is the premier precious metals IRA company in America. With an A+ BBB rating and thousands of satisfied customers, Birch Gold can help you move an eligible IRA or 401k into an IRA backed by gold. Go to birchgold.com/radio for your free information kit. That's birchgold.com/radio.
Don't wait until summer when you can lose those pandemic pounds this spring. We were just talking about that. With NJ Diet, it only takes 40 days to lose a contractually guaranteed 20 to 40 plus pounds. NJ Diet's program starts with bioenergetically personalized supplements based on your hair, saliva, and blood work. Then NJ Diet uses DNA testing to create your ideal diet plan and workout regimen and genetically assess over 50 different metabolic factors to help you keep the weight off and stay healthy for the rest of your life. Don't want to do it all alone? NJ Diet is with you every step of the way to make sure you're burning fat, not just losing water. And you'll also get the doctor's personal email and phone number. NJ Diet is all natural, no shots, no hormones, and no surgery. Yes, all natural. To repeat, no shots, no hormones, and no surgery. NJ Diet is available nationwide with live online video consultations. So visit njdiet.com or call 855-5NJ-DIET. That's 855-5NJ-DIET. Go to njdiet.com and lose the weight for good.
Hi, Amy Jacobson here, and I know I was complaining about the last mortgage company I worked with, how they made me bring a cash to close check. Big surprise that day when you